we recently had a meetup. It was the four of us and Emeka, and it was really fun. And we thought it'd be interesting to talk about some of the Enneagram typing, I don't know, light bulbs that we had, maybe just from, of course, I know all of you and I know all of your types, but having us all together in a group and in person, there were some things that I think we all kind of discovered or that confirmed about typing that would be interesting to talk about, like expectations maybe that weren't what we expected or whatever. God, I hate being like a host. It's just so, like I'm just like just can I just have like 3-wing 2 injected into my brain for like a few seconds and then I'll come back. Anyway, so yeah, does anybody want to start?
I thought it was cool that all of our frustration popped off. Like that was a shared, space for us, like social frustration. Yeah, there's like a lot of loud chatter at the dinner table and like flailing hands and like upset looks, and it was just fun. In beautiful locales.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can say that the first thing I noticed right off the bat was the real intense difference between social sexual and social self-pres.
Yeah.
That came off to me, and I already knew that there was a big difference, but I don't know that I've ever observed two social sexuals like interacting together without me being a part of the interaction. And so there was one day where we all sat to dinner and Ikram and Emeka showed up a little bit later. And Ikram, you sat right next to Joseph, and it was like you guys locked in, and immediately fireworks were going off, and like the pace and the decibel level all went up. And I was just like, from a social self-pres level, I was a little bit like, whoa, what is?
Yeah, that's
that is fast.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I think I opened up the conversation like, I just had a breakdown at the hotel room, and then Joseph looks at me and he goes, I love that. I love breakdowns. Tell me more.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's, I mean, there isn't that much to talk about Enneagram-wise except that. I think that was the one thing I noticed. And it was interesting for me because, I don't know, my typing's a little bit uncommon, so I'm sometimes not 100% sure. Like, it's easy to type Bermudas because I'm like, I have so many examples. I can really be certain. But with my typing, I'm not always sure. Here and there, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm social self-pres, but no. It was like being in and actually, I don't have a lot of social self-pres friends. Like, most of my friends are actually self-pres social or self-pres sexual. So this was really interesting too. There was a long stretch of time where I was hanging out with you, Alexandra, and you, Lewis, together. And just the general vibe and like pace of things felt, I mean, I don't know, it's just like more serious and more controlled and restrained, and like not even in a bad way. Like, we were having really interesting conversations and having fun. It just felt like civilized. And then and
I love our boundary.
Right. And so there's pros and cons to this, right? Because we ended up, because of that, when you're not kind of descending into chaos, you're having these really Lewis just said, shit, I think my internet went out. I didn't realize that he's frozen this whole time. I
feel so really, right, I know. Like, no, really, he's still,
yeah. Okay. On one hand, the conversations that I'm going to have with like two social self-pres people are just going to be more serious and more intellectual, and I actually really like that. But on the low side, it'll feel like boring and restrained in comparison to
more impersonal.
Yeah, right, exactly. And the conversations that I'll have with, say, somebody who has sexual instinct will feel more, I don't know, drunk and raw and playful. And so on one hand, like, we can have these really intellectual conversations, but stuff just gets too soupy and too messy to really be like, oh, let's stop and really think and have this like honest, like, intellectual debate. Like, sometimes it just ends up descending into a little bit of chaos, which again is fun. But yeah, so those are the pros and cons for me that I found really interesting.
Yeah, I agree with those. Yeah. There's a way with the forwardness and the vulnerability of social sexual helps me get out of my own kind of like internal stuckness. And it's weird because like I don't necessarily always experience myself that way until I'm around people that are more, I guess like synflow is what I'm learning, because even John and Emeka have more of that fluidity than I feel like I do. Yeah. With being even being social blind, there's like more ease there. So yeah, being around synflow stockings does help me get out of that kind of inner box that I kind of keep myself in. And then on the opposite end, I do think that Contra is really good at zooming out of the dynamic and being able to look at it from like a bird's eye view. And so that can be kind of interesting. And that, of course, like being a social self-pres, that's like, I love to do that. I have like endless energy for that, but it's not personal in a certain way. It's removed.
Yeah.
One silly little example I have, or not example, but like fun thing I've been thinking about was the difference between Joseph picking up the first restaurant with like a bunch of flamingo patterns and like a leopard print seats, and then the awe of that, like the social like and then the image type thing, and then Lewis, like the freaking going to Lewis's hotel and the fact that like the ceilings were so high. There's a huge portrait of it. Was like so classy. But I was like, damn. It was like two different types of like I don't know, I just felt the energetic hit of like the 7 overlay and the 1 overlay and like the height and the, you know, fireworks of social sexual versus the fireworks of social sexual. I've been thinking about that a lot, because it was for both instances I was like, whoa, like this is, what planet am I in? Like it was really cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never put together the social sexual being 7 and then social self-pres being 1. Never put together they're both frustration types as the social instincts.
It's true. Yeah.
You know, that's kind of
interesting. I
love
that, because like, social is frustrating. You just never,
it is so
like, it's not.
Yeah.
It's so intense.
That's true. So I hung out with Alexandra, like you and Lewis, and the three of us together, and we did similar things. And then the day that you left, and after Lewis had left, I hung out with you, Akram, and Emeka, and so and then Elisa also came both times. But it just felt like the three of us were like outside on a picnic table eating sushi and just like all yelling at each other, just freaking out. I was like exhausted after it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even the photos that you guys sent of like all kind of draped in that green light. Even I know that that's like not intentional, but at the same time, I was like, it worked. You know, symbolic at least.
Yeah.
It definitely worked. Yeah, because that's to like sit on the overlay thing a little bit longer. I feel like the downside of social sexual is like it's the ecstasy and then the come down of 7. Like you're like blah, and then blah, like you like getting really fucking tired, and then also not remembering some of the stuff you said. Like, I feel that so intensely in the second. And then with social self-pres, it's like the stiffness you're talking about with it's the 1 overlay of frustration of trying to get something right, but then the upside of that is that you do kind of get something right. You get something refined, and you remember it as well.
That's
honestly.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, there's a steadiness, I think, to social. What am I? To social self-pres.
Social self-pres,
that it's not necessarily like peaks and valleys and stuff like that, but it stays like steady in a kind of building way. Sometimes it can taper off also because it doesn't have that excitement that it needs. But yeah, there's a steadiness there that can be like, I think, pretty strongly dependent upon.
I brought up the example, the difference between Joseph showing us his first restaurant, which was like a bunch of flamingo print stuff, and then your hotel, which was just like the hotel of a prince. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Giant chess pieces, coins on the wall.
I think it was.
I'm stuck on the actual height of the ceiling, because I remember I was drunk at the time
high.
with like skin knees. Like just like totally out of my freaking element, and then I look up and I'm like, what the fuck, how high is this fucking ceiling?
No, I specifically requested in that restaurant that we sit in that basement, because like the upstairs is really nice too, but there's something about the basement that's like, it's just like creates this like swirl of sexual chaos or something like that, because it's like there's like mirrors and it's kind of dark.
Yeah.
The bathroom's kind of disorienting.
It is disorienting. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that place feels like a place to be drunk in. And Lewis's hotel felt like a place to be, I don't know, slightly misted, if anything. Not drunk. Nothing as undignified as drunk.
Right. Discussing the, I don't know, important things.
The politics of the day.
Right.
And that, the 7-ish, 1-ish thing, and all of the ups and downs of those two types is I think really important, because yeah, social sexual does feel like the high and the come down. That's the thing about 7 that people like when you're around 7, it's like, oh, we're having fun. But like 7s crash and it's like, there's like a panic of like, okay, what's next? Like that, I kind of scraped all of the juice out of that. Like I'm back to just being frustrated. Like, where do I go? And that's what like hardcore social sexual interaction can feel like, where you're like, what's next? And so the social self-pres thing is kind of the opposite, where you can kind of be like, we're tapering off because like, you know, that like heart monitor thing, it's just like it's dead. There's no heartbeat left. And we didn't chase after those things that we could have jumped on. You know, it was the next morning where I think it was you, Alexandra, you're like, wow, like last night at the restaurant, things got really intense and spicy. And I was like,
right.
What did we talk about? I was like, I don't even remember what we talked about. And I did not register it as spicy. No.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting to talk about what we have in common with because having 1 and 7 both being frustration types, and then all of us being social. One thing I realized is I've never had a group of friends that were all social types. Mostly,
Me neither.
like I've had
same.
maybe.
Yeah.
I only have one my best friend's social self-pres, and then I think all of my other friends are self-pres social. So that was
self-pres. Yeah.
I felt like the largeness of the meeting. I don't know, just the
totally
of all the social types meeting. And I was like, oh, this is like it was really fun. There's something there's something kind of fancy and elevated about social just in general. Like maybe fancy is not the correct word, but I'm trying to think. Like it does feel more, I don't know, social gatherings with social first feel more important.
Well, you know what it is.
That's true.
Yeah. It's,
or at least that it feels it's true that it feels that way. Yeah.
Well, because with self-pres social, you if you've ever been to like the dreaded like group brunch or group dinner or whatever with like a group of self-pres socials, you kind of know that
it's life feeling.
Yeah, like every conversation that you have feels like it was more important to you than it was to them. Like, if that makes sense. Like you could talk to a bunch of people and then you leave it realizing that they were all just casually doing social middle, like casual, you know, this is fun or whatever, but like, okay, bye, I'm going. If there's something about the 4 socials where, okay, there's 2 social sexual like drunk idiots and then 2 kind of like pillars, but it's still like everything that we did register as like an important thing that happened. Like, even if it's like, I don't remember what we talked about last night, it doesn't matter. Like, I registered that night as being this important thing that happened, and I would like I don't know, I want to say cherish it, but that's not the, like, I mean, what's the word?
It felt significant.
You can be corny.
Yeah. No, I can't. But no, but it's okay. I do cherish it, but no, that's not. I mean, I'm trying to say it felt significant. It's something that I'm not passively kind of letting go of as this thing that happened and it was fun. It's just like, this was an important thing that happened between all of us that I'm taking as something that like matters in my life as like utmost importance moving forward. I'm not going back to thinking about the laundry or my workout routine, or I don't know.
Yeah. I think
it felt like it needed to be like a historical event. Right? I feel like that's the social piece. Like, it needs to be a historical event of some kind of significance. And that as socials, we all want to have some fidelity to that experience. And the stakes just feel high. You know, it feels high because we're not seeing each other that much, but because, this feels like a specific container, the dinner, where we can all create a special event together.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Akron?
There's just a quality of presence. Everyone's lights are turned on when you look at them, you know?
Yeah.
And
actually,
I don't know, it was really nice.
At the table with the 5 of us, Emeka talked the least. Like, the 8-wing-7 was chiming in.
Emeka was like dissociating into the fucking background a few times, and then
he was worried about whether he was
something where he has a little bit of a canned laugh to remind people that he's still alive.
Yeah.
Totally, I totally picked up on that too. There was a way.
Yeah.
Yes. I was going to say that I picked up on that too. There was a way that I was like, oh, we're a bunch of social types and he's social blind. I wonder if this is just like that Charlie Brown like noise just going on to him. And then every now and then he would give this like his version of like a polite laugh where I'm like, I don't think he knows what he's laughing at, but he would do this thing where he's like, like he doesn't know what's going on. He fully doesn't care what we're talking about until what you were saying, Joseph, until he'd get like hooked into what we were talking about, and then an 8 is here.
Exactly. And that's partially the 8-wing 7 piece of like, I'm only going to be able to hook into what's interesting. The 5-wing 4 piece of I'm only going to be able to hook into what's interesting. And the sexual self-pres piece of the exact same thing, where it's like, if we're talking about something that immediately, not that, I mean, I think obviously we're all kind of like that, but there is just this social thing where it's like, I still have to be here somehow. I can't disappear when I'm not interested in what's going on. I might be frustrated with it and try to change the subject, but like, I'm at a circular table and like we're all here in this. Like you have to be turned. I think honestly, so this is reminding me. One thing I also noticed is that there were times where I enjoyed hanging out with you guys so much, and also it was more exhausting than I'm used to because of this very thing. And I mean that as a compliment. Like it was just kind of like everybody's so socially on that like there were points where I was like, I mean, I told you guys, I was like, I need to go home and take a nap or something. Like I can't, it was like Saturday, I was like, I need to be by myself for like 4 hours. And then I like really want to come back and hang out with you, but I can't do this for a bit because it was just, I'm not used to being on that much, know, with people.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Yeah, there was like the quality of attention was that much more saturated because we were all tracking the same things, which meant in a certain way none of us could take a break. Because we're all like tuned into each other in similar ways. Even with the stacking difference, we're still all social types, and so we're like wanting and responding to the same thing. There's like a higher kind of drug hit that we're all getting.
Yeah.
At least that's how I felt. And maybe that's what I was trying to respond to with the feeling of that this felt like historical or significant or just like something important happened here. It felt like, like my cup was full and this like real, 3 other social types giving me social engagement. How is it not gonna?
It really reminded me of our episode that we did for Fleabag. And just, the quality of attention. And it's also, you guys probably feel this as well, but being a social type in a world with a lot of self-pres types, you're often the one who's like picking up on other things that people are missing, like social things, like, oh, you're messing up here, or, this is your shadow, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know. It's obnoxious, but that's what social types do. And so that it was interesting to have that done to me. And I was like, oh,
totally.
Right.
Like other people picking up things and see, I'm like, pause. Existential crisis.
Sure.
Come out.
We're all seeing each other in this way that's so intense, and we'll like casually be like, oh, you seem this, and you're like, oh my god, people are looking at me, like
right.
Right.
Sorry, getting that kind of attention that we're normally giving is a different experience.
Very locked in the whole time, which felt unusual for me. But this mix of kind of getting instinctually satiated and exhausted through the intensity of the interactions was very interesting combo. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like this after our calls too. Like I'm going to get off this call and I'm always like, ooh, like, and it's not even a bad thing. It's just like, I'm exhausted. That was a lot. I mean, but then I thought, part of that is because there's like lights shining in my face and I'm hot and I'm on camera and like kind of performing, but it's like, no, it's kind of the same thing. If you're just like with other socials, it's like, you're just being seen in such a way and mirrored in such a way that is, I'm just, like, it's like what you said, I'm just used to being the one who's seeing those things and maybe commenting on them, and self-pres socials are always like, oh wow, like I didn't think about any of that, and I'm just like, I don't know, but I'm not used to people giving it back to me.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
Or even people taking giving a fuck about what you have to say. I mean, there's a level of seriousness that we all have about social that a lot of people don't have, so it's like we're all like hanging over every word, like I really care about because it's like, obviously I respect you guys and you are social types, so I care about what you have to say about social. So it's like, what did you say? And then obviously
right.
You know what, that's interesting. That feeling of being really listened to and heard, because you might think like, I don't know, I've had say like two fixers, like, look at me like this while I'm talking, and I realized they didn't hear, like, they didn't really care or hear a thing I said. Like, so you might get this, because but my point is that now, besides you, Akram, like, we're all kind of 3-4 area, like, we're not exactly like the warmest people that are, you're like, oh, this person's really listening to me, but like, we're really listening to, like, if one of you is talking, I'm like, who is this person? Like, what's she saying? What's he doing? What's this, like, what does this mean about them? And I'm really paying attention, and I'm trying to place myself in an interaction with them. It's like, okay, if this is who they are, then who am I right now, and what are we doing? And it's just like, it might not look like that because we're not like effusively warm people, but that was happening more than people who seem warm but aren't actually really listening to you, or like what, again, this conversation isn't that important to them. It's just like being nice or whatever.
Right.
It can be easy to forget that, like, almost no one's actually listening. And I was curious about what your experience was like, Joseph, with Alexander and I giving you the social self-pres treatment. Because it felt like there's the social self-pres thing of like, we're kind of unconsciously creating some kind of container or culture for everyone to participate in.
I think I felt I had some anxiety. There were times where I had anxiety about, like, are we even having fun? Is this what fun is? Like, I wasn't sure. And I don't know how to explain it. It's not that I wasn't having fun or that I wasn't enjoying myself, but I was literally like, this isn't what an interaction is for me. And I'd see you guys, and it took me like a couple of days to be like, oh, but they are having fun, and this is what an interaction it, like, because I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, we had that great conversation, but like, everybody had their clothes on.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, there were times when I realized I'd be talking to you, and metaphorically, I'd like pull a shirt off, and I'd be like, oh, no, sorry. No one's doing that. Okay. And so I'd had anxiety because that's normal for me. So I'd had anxiety about that and be like, if fun is the only word I can think of, but it's just like, are we doing anything? Is this like, I'm trying to rev this up and it's not happening. But then I'd be like, oh no, but what happened is the thing, and it was enjoyable in its way, and that's okay. Like, that's what it was, Yeah.
I really like what you said, Lewis, about social self-pres wanting to create a container around the interaction, because it's like, it does feel like social sexual is trying to do the opposite, because I don't know. I didn't even know I had this goal in mind until towards the end, and I achieved it. But I was trying to ruffle your feathers. Like, I came in to Toronto, and I was like, I'm gonna figure out Lewis. I'm gonna like break him in some way. I'm gonna see him sweat. And then I remember we were at dinner.
Okay.
Oh, you did.
You were actually frazzled, and I was so satisfied.
Frazzled? Why was I frazzled?
Within the container of who you are, there's a little.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Like, your head was moving like that, and I was like, "Oh gosh, this is perfect. This is good." And that's the exact opposite of
just like
container.
Frustration.
It's unraveling something.
That's what. Yeah,
so
I know
funny.
what you're saying.
Are you talking about at George?
Yeah, no, go.
You're talking about at the dinner? Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was the same. That's how I felt with you guys, where I was like, I'm trying to squeeze this lemon out or something, and I'm not.
The anxiety around having fun is good. That's a really, really good 7 overlay thing. Because I have it as the 7, but if you have it and
I'm 4-6-1. There's nothing fun about my typing. Like, you know what I mean? But I'm trying to, in my way, I'm trying to be like, what the hell is nude and interesting about this? And if I can't find it and I can't do it, I get anxiety. And actually, with self-pres social people, it's easier. They'll just be like, like, I don't. You can just kind of. It's like this inflow thing, and it doesn't mean that much. But with social self-pres people, they're just like, I did this collar up, and you're not pulling this button open. And I'm like,
right.
Okay, what the hell am I supposed to do? And then I started to just relax into it and be like, this is it. This is the thing, and that's fine.
Yeah. Social self-pres feels like the most serious stacking to me. Totally. And maybe I'm just like, hyping myself up with that or something like that. But it feels like the most serious stacking. And so in social interactions, there is a lot of like, no funny business. We are like socializing right now. Like, socializing and connecting and engaging with each other is like a serious matter, And so at least with myself, I experienced myself as really boundaried. And we were saying this before you lost connection, Lewis. We were saying that, now I just forgot it. Oh, we were saying that sin flow can be very relaxing to me in the sense that it can shake me out of that like rigidity or that like over seriousness or whatever. But at the same time, creating this social container that comes from social self-pres, I feel like locks in intimacy in a way that makes it feel more, I don't know, potent or something like that, or like contained, I guess.
Yeah. It's so important to understand stacking because I think that's the lesson I learned. Like, it's like I'm sitting there with a crumb and I'm like, oh, this casual game of strip poker that we're playing is how we do serious, important social. Like it's like if I'm doing this with you, then that's the thing. But I had to learn that with the social self-pres people that like that thing that you just talked about, that's the way that you're showing me that this is really important. And so it's like two different styles.
For me.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Reminds me of Pride and Prejudice. I know we're probably going to start a book club or whatever, and we've talked about it a little bit, but that is kind of the vibe of the reason why you're hanging over every single thing that happens in this social space and you cherish everything. Because again, it's like the frustration overlay where there's ideals baked in, is because people are like, there's a really like solid container around it. So there's a way that I also like it. I think it's sometimes I get intimidated by it because whether I like it or not, I am doing the fucking nude thing, and then you get like this hangover of like
weirdly naked.
That was embarrassing because you're still a social type.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's embarrassing. I look like a fucking freak. Like, but I do enjoy that style too.
Yeah, it's funny. There's like, because sometimes I will get insecure around, or just like self-conscious, I guess, about the social self-presness of me around social sexuals. Because I'm like, I don't look like I'm not contributing to this like frenzy, you know, or at least that's how it comes across sometimes. I'm not contributing to like the party or whatever in a way. So am I not a part of it? Am I not engaged? You know, all that kind of stuff.
It's literally just social first, like how we're fixated. Because I feel the same way about social self-pres. Like, at one point, I've told this story so many times because like it was so deeply embarrassing. And I know you guys didn't care, but I have to like get it off my chest. But I got like so excited about the conversation that I fucking wiped out after we left the bar. And so that's like the type of shit that I'm like, am I psychotic? Like, am I crazy? Like, how do I get this excited? Like, what's wrong?
You were literally floored by the conversation.
Yes, I was running after you guys. I was talking to you and Alexandra, and I was like, "Hey, wait for me!"
I remember being so like impressed by that. Not necessarily that you wiped out, but that you just like popped right back up and then just continued like nothing. You were just like, "Okay, no breaks in the engagement. Keep going, keep going. Nobody pay attention to this. Just keep going."
Let's not break the flow. Let's not break the flow. Gosh.
Yeah. Okay, I remember kind of what I was going to say is that like in the social sexual land, there is that like frenzy, there's that party, that energy and whatever. I realized that the philosophy, at least in my iteration of it for social self-pres, is I'm wanting to actually be as sober as possible. And in that sobriety is where the like intensity can come from. You know, in a certain way, there's like, if we can't connect in a fully sober way, then what do we have?
Right. Then it feels frivolous.
That's my angle. Yeah.
And mine is like, if we're not doing strip poker, it like where it's like one item comes off, like, oh, I hand you a card and the next item comes off, and like, how far are we going to go with this? And of course there's a limit to, you know, for sure, strip poker. But it's that if we're not doing that, then we're not really like connecting, then it's not important. And I had to, like I learned, I mean, of course I knew, but it's having it so viscerally presented to me. I had to learn that was wrong, that that's not how everybody interacts. And that we were all,
there's different colors.
You can sit there and be like, I think what's interesting is that not once, though, even though I had all these thoughts, I was never actually anxious about like, oh, do these people like me? I was like, no, we all like each other, and we're all showing up for each other very clearly. It's just these really different interaction styles, and it was like jarring and a learning experience. But I was never like insecure, because it's like, again, the social thing is like, we're all here, we're all doing this, we're all consistently showing up. And even though we're all even like sometimes a bit exhausted. It's like, we don't really want to leave, we're just here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It was funny. This is maybe changing the subject, but still going along with it. When we all went to dinner when we had the tasting menu, I had this weird sort of zoomed out experience where I was seeing all the like energy move across, and I was participating in it too. Like we all have frustration in our typings. And so we were really just like having a lot of fun with that. But I still, even in the midst of all of that, I still had this zoomed out view of myself as a 9 in a way that I was like not in a way that I had to see in a kind of fresh way, like, whoa, I'm a 9. There's a certain way that at home, I live with a 4-wing 5. And so that's it. And with a 5 fix. So that's more introverted than I am. I'm the loud one. I'm the chatty one here at home.
Yeah.
And so when I'm out in the world, I think I just forgot how like, I don't know. And then John calls me like dramatic so often
right.
that I'm just
but
like,
reality,
maybe I've transcended 9-ness or whatever. Yeah, I'm like, I did it. I'm not a 9 anymore.
Yeah.
But then being around you guys, I'm like, whoa, this is what chill 9 means. I like, even as like ruffled up as I felt, I was still just like, no, I'm still the most chill person here. This is weird.
By far.
Yeah. Like Lewis and I, we hung out too, and also doing all this stuff that we've been doing with like the retyping and the collages. I realized how so we discovered all this really interesting stuff that the area has in common, but it was also really clear to me what's different about those two typings, like very clearly different, because I still felt so messy and bratty in comparison, and to like kind of a statuesque, icy type of 3-wing 4 energy. Like that was interesting to me, that I was like, this is, and again, it might just play into our stackings too, but it's like really easy to rattle me. Like I'm a reactive type, really easy, where I was like, I can't rattle you, like not really. And I don't want to try, because if I did, you'd probably be genuinely really upset, and I wouldn't want that. Whereas like you could just, I don't know, turn the thermostat down a half a degree and I'll start flipping tables. Like it's not that hard,
Yeah. I definitely felt tuned into that, which is unusual for me. Just like, you're going to make it very clear whether you're comfortable or not. But I'm trying to tune into that and kind of thinking of ways like, is this working for him, or am I not being like expressive or loose enough to make him feel comfortable?
Yeah. And actually, it was interesting that I'm not used to you're not a reactive type, but you're more than anybody else I know who's not kind of core in that area, maybe except for like Lucas, who's triple frustration overlay. But like you would be, I'm not sitting on that chair. And I was like, oh, it's usually just me that's being that kind of bitch.
Right.
It's just like, oh, okay, right. Like we're not sitting on these chairs or whatever. But it's usually me who's just like, no, we're not doing that. And like most of the people I'm around are just kind of like, ha, like that's fine, like okay, we won't sit here. But I was just like, oh no, there's 2 people in this group who are going to be really picky, and we need to make sure that we can do this. Yeah
2 double image types.
Yeah
It's very definitive and inflexible in its own way. I was really unsure of what our one-on-one dynamic was going to be like in person. So, and it was interesting. I was glad that we were going to be able to do that the first night, just to see, and for me to kind of warm up to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it flowed really well, and it felt like it did come from a place of wanting to understand like the city from a social perspective.
Oh yeah, we did talk about that a lot.
That was how we were approaching each other. Like we had to find some shared social angle to talk about things through.
I think Emeka said, well, we had met once before in person, but this is really only our second time meeting in person, which is kind of crazy to think about because we were like on camera together, whatever. But he said that I was just like for 461, that I was just like more easygoing and fun than he expected. Like, which is that's a fair point. I think if you're around me for long enough, you'll start to be like, I am prickly, like, you know what I mean? And I'm touchy and I'm all that kind of stuff, but I'm just like, well, I'm really, and maybe even that's part of what was exhausting, because I was like, these people are only here for a few days. I need to just, like, this all has to be positive. It has to be fun. I don't want to be rude or whatever. So like when I was feeling like I was okay, I'm starting to burn out of this, I just be like, I'm going, so that I'm not here in a state that I don't want to be in around you guys, and I would just leave and come back and be fine. But yeah, for the most part, I think that's really just social sexual. I'm really just like trying to have fun, and my way of having fun is being maybe mean and complaining and rude and all that kind of stuff. But it's still my way of doing social, which is like strip poker.
Yeah, that's what I picked
entirely
up
serious. Yeah. It feels like it could get serious, but it's not serious in the moment.
Yeah, I felt like not that it's not who you are. Also, like there, you do have that as a genuine way of being, and that you are particular and like things a certain way, blah blah blah. But I was able to see, and maybe this is just a body type angle. I was able to see that a lot of that was just like a social persona for fun. It was just like a thing to play with almost. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like, I don't know, the fourth thing, so vulnerable, because it's like, oh, someone's telling me that I'm just a persona. But like, you got to get past all that shit, because it's like, this is all a fucking persona. Like, everything is. It's all lies. It's all, you know what I mean? So on one hand, it's like, it's real, but on another hand, is it? Like, I don't know what is real.
You have
like,
to find your angle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Making fun of it in some way is a way for you to exist in the world.
Yeah.
I'm saying that because I also do the same thing. You make fun of yourself for being a crazy person because you are a little bit crazy.
I think I've learned, and I've learned to like laugh at it too. Like, I'll say something, it probably looks really 7-ish or 6-ish, or I don't know on camera, but I'll say something like on DAA that's so violently rude or something, and then I'm just kind of like looking at myself and I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like, you're an idiot. Like, but in the moment when I'm saying it, it's not a joke. But then I'll just laugh at myself because I'm just like, what am I talking about? This is so stupid. Like, why am I upset about this? You know what I mean? So it's kind of a self-development for me to like, especially because I know how I look now. Like, I'm kind of sitting around people who are like very cognizant of me and my typing and what I'm doing. And that's an interesting thing. Just you guys knowing my type and knowing the Enneagram is kind of like, I can't fool these people. Like, I don't know. Like, I just sounded like I just have to laugh at it. Because if I don't laugh at it, then I'm going to feel all this image shame, and it's going to be painful, and I'm going to get stuck in this space of like people not seeing me or whatever the heck it is that I'm thinking about. And it's just like, no, this is just stupid, and I'm just going to laugh at it. And that's kind of something I've been trying to do for myself. Yeah.
There's something like indulging in it a little bit, like indulging in the persona and the disgust for an entertainment way, but being able to pull back from it. And I think doing that, it is entertaining.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was happening from all of us in a certain way. Like, we were kind of leaning into our Enneagram stuff and just playing it out freely in a fun way. And that kind of contributed to the chemistry in some way.
That's a good point. Just, I mean, I know you guys have done meetups and stuff already, but like for me, this is kind of the first time that I've been in a large group of people that are very cognizant of my type and vice versa, where it's just like a different experience. It's like a different feeling, because I'm just like, I don't know, like if I'm talking to you, Akram, and I do something that's super 4-ish or something, and I'm like, but she's a 7, and you know it, and I know it. There's like, the whole approach to the conversation is different. Like, if I say something, it depends on who it is, right? Like, if I'm talking to my 964 friend on the phone, and she'll casually like joke that she wants to kill herself or whatever, and like we'll just be like, there's like, we're not even laughing. But if I say it to you, I'm just like, how much does she see me right now? That's hilarious. Like, I'm just gonna laugh because she's probably laughing, and it's I know what she's thinking. Like, you know what I mean? And now you're aware not only of what you did, but very specifically of not some like, ooh, what is the social world thinking of me? It's like, what's Alexandra thinking of me right now, being her, being this type, this person, how's she looking at me, and what did I just say, and how did that register to her in a way that I can only know if I know her whole typing, and you know.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, but it's interesting.
Yeah, it was
even
also
though
just,
you know the whole typing, there's still a mystery to it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And that's partially where the anxiety comes from. Yeah,
it was fun to see it all play out with you guys. You know, like I said this, I think I said it to John, or maybe I said it across, I don't know if I've said this to you already, but there was, oh yeah, I did. I told you on some other call, but there was a way that Ikram, I was able to see the double assertive part of you, where I was like, man, she is like assert, you know, and social sexual and a 7 first. I was like, look at this like playful firework that's just like, you know, just coming out the whole time, you know. And then Joseph with triple frustrate, or not triple, with double frustration, double reactive. And then Lewis being a triple attachment like myself. Yeah, it was fun to see all of those dynamics come out in like the moving center instead of just it staying on an intellectual level.
Yeah.
Just feels like the more people you have, the in an Enneagram group who know it, the more it comes alive, and the more real
right. Yeah.
it becomes. Yeah.
Another thing about that dinner is that the Hexad versus the attachment, I think, was really obvious in that main dinner.
Yeah.
We're all just like getting drunk off wine and stuff like that. And just like the Hexads really were like putting themselves forward and like talking over each other, and you know, this kind of fun frenzied energy. And there's also going to be some of the overlap between the fact that the three of you are synflow also, and then Lewis and I are the triple attachments and the social self-pres. So who knows if it's attachment or that, probably both. But that dynamic played out really clearly too, in the sense that a lot of the chaos was like brought about by a 4, a 7, and an 8, while Lewis and I were kind of standing back and watching and coming in and out as we did.
Okay, is it back on? Sorry.
Yes.
I pressed the little button. I've been trying to talk forever, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh,
what's going on?
God.
We're like, she's so assertive, like so much that we're ignoring her completely.
I felt like
really
I was
listening.
bombing.
Yeah.
I was like,
She's
okay.
Yeah, she's like.
Oh my god.
Okay, what were you saying?
It's so funny. I was gonna say it felt like me and Joseph had infected. Like I was thinking about it as me and Joseph being the frustration types infecting the rest of the crew.
Yeah, we
like
ruined,
activating your wings and your fixes.
It immediately
And
like
I felt joyous in that moment because I usually like
so much fun.
I really do feel like slightly mentally unwell being a frustration type because I just like always have some sort of big pain or like something that I want to like complain about. And every new topic is like another thing that I fucking hate. And I don't even have a 4 fix, you know? And so I was getting that from you, Joseph. And then I felt so vindicated when you guys were also getting frustrated. And then you guys have the 3-4 area. You, Alexandra, and Lewis. And so when you would say stuff, it would also like hit a little bit stronger because you have frustration in the heart. And so I was just like, oh,
critical.
This is getting so spicy. Like I was it was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, there's a thing too with 7 that like I don't know. Okay, so like you'd say something that there's a little bit of, because you have secondary 9-wing-1 and maybe not a lot of frustration people in your life, you'll say something really frustrating and there's this like, is that okay? Like even like I feel sorry guys, I know that was life. Really and I just be like
and just being like, I don't want to disrupt the environment. I'm sorry. Should I be small?
And I'm just like, oh no, tell me more. What's that? Like please keep going. Yeah.
Gosh, so I think that's why I think that's why you saw the more double assertiveness. Because it was like a frustration. I'm still Bermuda adjacent, so it was like the environment was safe for me to be frustrated.
I felt that. Yeah,
I got big. Yeah.
Because 9-wing-1, 3-wing-2 is a lot of positive that's like kind of overshadowing, and even social sexual. It's a lot of like, let's just have fun and keep things light. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's funny being an attachment type with a frustration wing, because sometimes I feel like I actually am there a lot of the time. I'm just not going to lead that way because it seems like inappropriate or something like that. So for you guys to be like really setting the foundation to just go crazy, it was like, this is awesome. I normally think I have to be like sneaky in trying to express my frustration, but the fact that it could be so overt and forward was like, this is nice.
Yeah, and there was a thing, just to go back to the Hexad attachment thing, there was a thing I noticed where Hexads they might not even be more assertive. Like we were saying, like Emeka didn't do that much talking at the dinner, but when Hexads start in, they can't help but like lead the conversation because they're not flexible. So they're leading the conversation and the energy to the specific point that they're at, and they're not really very good at, especially Emeka, again, being like triple Hexad.
That's a really good call out for Emeka.
Yeah. Well, no, you can't. if you can go with him on the train that he's on and meet him at his points, which is why, again,
but
like,
it's the same train, which is what I keep on telling them all the time. I'm like, we talk about the same fucking 5 things. Get more, like, get frustrated by bigger shit, please, more stuff.
And that's the like 5-wing 4-piece too, I think, because 8-wing 7 is pretty expensive, but then there's a 5-wing 4-piece where his there is like a narrowness about, so he like knows it, like, so he'll just come with you when he wants to, but it's like when the Hexad starts, the attachment types sort of have to be flexible and like go to that place, and it's like you're either coming with me to that place, or I'm kind of half stepping with you to the place you want to be. It's like I'm not very good at it. And so it's nice to have some attachment and some Hexad in a space, because it like balances out this energy flow. Like you feel like a lot of attachment, like it's just like a room full of Bermudas. You end up just kind of talking about nothing sometimes. Like, you're just, there's like where it's just this like floating. If you have like too many Hexads in a space, it's just like, well, we're not talking about anything because we don't even have anything in common. We can't meet each other anywhere.
Yeah, I feel like Emiko was riding the wave, and then he'd have moments where he'd just jump in. But my sense was that energetically he was there the entire time.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
He just needed to pick his spots to cannonball in.
It was also, of course, so funny that towards the end of the weekend, Emiko was talking about like, wow, this is so nice, and we can just like all hang out and talk to each other, and it's like fun, and all the 4 social types. So like, yeah.
His realization that you don't need to like be under the influence of anything to just like be social.
Enjoy
like you can just connect using your voice and your personality.
Social is enjoyable.
You can just talk. Yeah.
The tone of it was really fun and connective, and there was a lot of frustration and reactivity at play, but the material was somewhat serious. It was interesting that we were the material was actually like really serious, and serious in a social way. But it's interesting that it felt like fine to talk about that. It didn't feel like things were being like, it felt like constructive, but it was about serious topics, but it was talked about in a way that was really fun. Yeah. So that felt very singular to me.
I think too that's like if you're I like talking to people who are interested in the Enneagram, or just people who, because it's I feel like I hear people talking on the phone sometimes at coffee shops, and they're just like, and she was like, and then he was like, and then I go, and then she's like, and I'm just like, you're like, just roll back the tapes and we can all watch it, and then you can shut the fuck up, because you're not saying anything. But I feel like if we're talking about something that happened to us or somebody or whatever, we're not just talking about what happened. We're talking about it in a way that's playful and fun, but also like there's like you said, there's something constructive, there's some kind of analysis happening, and we can like do that constructive thing and like still be on our 5th glass of wine.
Yeah.
Right. And just kind of allowing oneself to just do it in the style of your personality in those moments.
I mean, even the topics, and we won't get into the topics, but even the topics were like social in the sense that we like want to be on the same page and want to kind of come to the same conclusions. And it could be argued that we all have 6 influences, and so maybe that's part of it too. But social is like the communication amidst the group in order to like keep the group safe, And that felt a lot like what we were doing, or at least just just wanting to like be unified in our perspectives.
The first night that we went out, it was the first night we had all seen each other, so we're all kind of like whatever. But there was a lot of like noise and like stuff in that restaurant that again is like a drug that helps create social lubrication. But the second night we were kind of just like in a dead quiet restaurant, like at a circular table, and it was like, but we, without social, like without this like kind of like vested interest in whatever's happening with everybody at the table, you could end up just kind of being like, oh my God, or obviously if you're just like, I don't like these people at this table. Like, I don't know, if you've ever been to a wedding and you're like put at a circular table with like, you're just kind of like, like you like say hi to the person across the table, and then the rest of the time you're just kind of like facing this way to talk to the person next to you who hopefully and then like you're just like, but we're at this table, like, this person's in front of me, they're facing me, but it's like we could do that and actually like have this really interesting conversation.
God, social's so weird. It's so like fussy and finicky and uptight. You know, it's like so. Yeah, it just seems so high stakes.
Yeah. It does. They're fucking high stakes. Jesus.
Yeah, it is. It's exhausting.
That dinner was like my favorite dinner that I've ever had in my life.
It was
not only the
great.
food, but the company.
Yeah,
that was so much fun.
It's legendary. It's fantastic.
It was great.
Yeah,
it was so much fun.